What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Now that we've been through the initial chaos of free agency, I figured I'd make a video just to give my thoughts on some of the biggest changes we've seen as a result of free agency and the trades that have happened as well. Been a few big trades that we're going to talk about. So let's just get started with Le'Veon Bell. Now, the Jets' offense actually came alive at points last season. It's really interesting to take a look at their game log, because there's a lot of weeks where they scored, like upper 30s to 40 points. And there's a lot of weeks where they scored like 3, 6, 10. So it's kind of crazy to see the variance. And that's what's going to happen when you have a young quarterback like Darnold. And there were points last season where Darnold looked like he's making plays that quarterbacks that have been in the league for years have never made. So he definitely has a bright future. But with that being said, I don't think that that massive bright future is this season. He still has a lot to do developing. So while there were flashes in the offense last year, and you think that adding Le'Veon Bell is going to make them a great offense, I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. I love the signing of Crowder. I think that helps them extend drives. I think that really helps having a security blanket for Darnold. And of course, again, the increase from what running backs they had to Le'Veon Bell is helping this offense for sure. But they're not going to be, like a powerhouse offense or anything. They're still the Jets. What can we see as far as opportunity, though, for Bell? Because remember, opportunity is king in fantasy football. Well, last season, if we add up Crowell, McGuire, and Cannon, keeping in mind that McGuire missed a lot of the season, Cannon didn't play for a lot of the season, so this is just kind of mushing them all together into one running back. That would be 273 carries and 84 targets. Now, Bell is not going to get all of that work. They're going to have other running backs get carries, other running backs get receptions, but they're going to use mainly Le'Veon Bell. And we know that with him being such a good receiving back, they are going to line him up in the slot sometimes, so maybe we see him get into that 90 to 100 target range. Do I think that happens? I mean, that's probably pushing it, but we know that what we're going to get with Le'Veon Bell is that reception floor. There's going to be a running back I talk about later in this video that we think that there's going to be a carry floor, but the receptions won't be there. And with receptions being such a massive part of fantasy football, even in half-point leagues, it is really nice knowing you're getting a running back that's going to get all the goal line, is going to get all the cracks in the early downs, can be a full three-down back and line up in the slot, and is on a bad team that maybe they can get receptions. Now, never is it a good thing they're on a bad team, but Le'Veon Bell, we at least know every week the dude's going to be getting his 5, 6, 7, 8 targets. So I think he's a fine pick early in drafts. I drafted him 6th overall in our latest mock draft, and that may have been a bit aggressive, but with the volume alone, he's definitely worth a late first-round pick. So I'm cool with him late in the first round. As of right now, obviously our thoughts are going to change as the offseason progresses. So that's my thoughts on Le'Veon Bell. We're going to move on to Mark Ingram. And that's the guy I said a second ago that we can expect to see a carry floor for Mark Ingram. For sure, he is going to get a boatload of carries. We saw that he in the season that he had his most ever carries, well, that was his best season. In 2017, he had 14 carries per game, finishes the running back 6. So we say, okay, how many carries is he going to get? Now he's in Baltimore. Well, when Lamar Jackson took over, he took over for the final 7 weeks of the regular season and then for the one playoff game. If you exclude the playoff game where they just played horrible and the game script did not go how they wanted, running backs, not Lamar Jackson, running backs got 27.6 carries per game over that stretch. You have to think that Mark Ingram's going to get at least half of those. So if we're slotting in Ingram for 17, 18 carries a game, I mean, that's going to be the most he's had in his career, and they're paying him, $6.5 million guaranteed, $15 million over 3 years. They're paying the dude. That's a decent. It's not massive, but it's an okay contract for running back. So they're definitely going to use him. But his issue, like I just mentioned, is that receiving floor. Lamar, maybe they change. Lamar came in halfway through the season. They may have been expecting it, but there's no way they had full enough time to put a full game plan out there. So maybe within full off season, they kind of get more design plays passing the running backs, because we have seen Mark Ingram is a really good receiving back but we haven't seen it so far. So since we haven't seen it, since he's changing teams, a lot of risk there. And on those weeks where maybe they lose and he doesn't get a touchdown, he doesn't get that many carries, his floor is going to be really low. So that's not someone I'm comfortable drafting in the first 4 rounds. The first 4 rounds being so important and such a high success rate compared to the other rounds, I'm not comfortable taking him in the top 4 rounds. Right now he's going late 4th, early 5th round, which seems like a fair value, but I'm for sure not touching him in the first 4. I guess in the 5th round, I'd be cool with that, I guess, as of right now. Let's move on. Let's move on to Latavius Murray. And I wanted to include him because he's essentially the new Mark Ingram. So Mark Ingram leaves the Saints, and Latavius Murray takes his role. And he is going to be Mark Ingram. I believe he's going to take the exact same role, which makes him a viable running back too. So on the Saints, he's going to have a ton of scoring opportunities. He's already had 2 seasons with 30-plus receptions, so we know he's going to have that same receiving role Mark Ingram had. And he's going to be running behind one of the best offensive lines in the league. That's going to lead to success. And plus, you're drafting massive upside. What if something were to happen to Alvin Kamara? I mean, now this dude's a running back 1. So right now his ADP is the 11th round. That's not real. You know, these things just happen. No one's drafting right now. But I expect him to finish in the exact same range that Mark Ingram is in. But that 5th to 6th range, maybe he's a little bit later than Ingram since he's a backup. People don't typically like to draft backups while starters are still on the board. But honestly, I'd consider having Latavius Murray ranked ahead of Mark Ingram just because of the scoring upside, the offensive line, the upside if something happens to Kamara, and just being in a better overall offense. So I'm very okay with what I project to be his 5th or 6th round ADP. But of course, we're going to have to see how everyone else feels because the market could change from what I think it is. Now we're going to talk about 2 wide receivers. You guys obviously know who the 2 wide receivers are, Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr. We're going to talk about Antonio Brown first. Now, Derek Carr is not Big Ben. He's not terrible. I've probably said that he's terrible before. He's not terrible, but he's also not good. And he's not even, I would say he's below average. He's not a good quarterback. It is 100% possible that with the number 4 pick or with a trade, the Raiders do get a new quarterback. Could they trade up? Could they take someone at 4? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not in their organization, but I think it would be a smart move given how not good Derek Carr is. So there's a chance that this entire analysis is just thrown out the window. But let's just assume that Derek Carr is the quarterback or someone comparable to Derek Carr ends up being the quarterback. He's not going to get as many targets as we're used to seeing. Those targets that he does get are going to come with far less upside. We know Carr doesn't love to push the ball down the field. We know he's not as good as Big Ben. He doesn't have that same rapport that Big Ben has. We know that Antonio Brown has not produced that great when the backup quarterbacks have been on the field because, Ben Roethlisberger does get hurt from time to time, misses a few games here and there, and AB hasn't really produced that amazingly when he's off the field. So I'm not in love with Antonio Brown. It's never a good thing when someone changes teams and that situation they're going to is much worse. A much lower scoring offense, a much worse quarterback, a lower volume offense. So I don't love the pick. He's going to be in that mid-second round area. Maybe that changes. Maybe that doesn't. Maybe they draft a quarterback. I don't know. But as of right now, don't love the situation with Antonio Brown. What I do love the situation for, and it's actually kind of cool to compare these two, we have another wide receiver that changes teams in Odell, but this one's completely different. He's going from an absolutely washed Eli Manning to an up-and-coming, already elite Baker Mayfield. This is likely going to be a top 5 offense. This is a potential top 3 offense in the league. I'm taking the Chiefs and the Saints over them 100% of the time. Okay, don't get me wrong with that. But other than that, you could make a case that they're the 3rd best offense in the league. Baker is an elite quarterback. This isn't a situation like with Sam Darnold where he might be elite in the future, but it's going to take a little bit to get there. He's elite right now. Chubb, as a rookie, was PFF's number 2 rated running back as a runner and led the league in yards per carry after contact. David Njoku finished his sophomore season, ranked 8th in the receiving yards among tight ends. We already know that Landry is one of the best slot receivers in the game. So add in Odell, who's unarguably a top 5 wide receiver talent in the league, easily top 3, I would say. And you get an offense that's going to put up a ton of points. That's increased touchdown opportunity. I mean, this dude's got 15 touchdown upside. Does it happen? I mean, not usually. Like, you can't just project guys at the wide receiver position for that many touchdowns, but he should have a ton of touchdowns. He should be hyperly efficient. I mean, when I release my initial rankings, which I have not done yet, I expect him to be a top 3 wide receiver. It's close between him, Hopkins, and Devonta Adams, but regardless, I mean, he's an absolute stud this season, and I have no problem whatsoever if you want to take him as the number 1 wide receiver. Initially thinking right now, I feel like DeAndre Hopkins has to be number 1. I just feel like he has to be. But you want to take Odell 1, go for it. And this is 1 for wide receivers. Remember, we're not even contemplating taking these guys ahead of the top running backs. But Odell should have an absolutely monster season in Cleveland. So, that is the end of this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about we hit the like button? How about we subscribe if we're new? Thanks for watching.